Welcome to the My Path Through Yoga series. This discussion centers on the book The TAO of Physics by FRITJOF Capra. This project begins with a simple idea that the inner journey of yoga and the outer exploration of physics are not separate paths, but two ways of approaching the same truth. Capra's work invites us to see the universe not as a collection of isolated things, but as a living process. As we move through these slides, we'll trace how ancient yogic insight and modern scientific discovery begin to mirror one another, revealing a deeper unity beneath both disciplines. The cosmic dance of the universe. Capra describes reality as a dance, patterns of mass and energy constantly shifting, never fixed. Indian artists express this through the image of Shiva Nataraja, the cosmic dancer. Physicists express it through particle tracks, waveforms, and fields. Both traditions point to the same truth. Creation and destruction are not opposites, but phases of one continuous movement. As Shiva dances, matter vibrates. As matter vibrates, the universe unfolds. This is where mysticism and physics first touch. Wave-particle duality and Tantra. Modern physics shows that light behaves as both a particle and a wave. This dual nature isn't a contradiction. It's a sign that reality is more fluid than our categories. Tantra expresses a similar idea through Shiva and Shakti, two aspects of one unified force. Just as light cannot be reduced to only a wave or only a particle, consciousness cannot be reduced to only the material or only the spiritual. Duality dissolves when we look closely. Fundamentals of classical physics. Classical physics begins with Newton, a universe of solid particles moving through absolute space and absolute time. It's a worldview built on separation, mind and matter, space and time, observer and observed. Yoga's early classical tradition also emphasized separation, the material world and the spiritual world as distinct realms. Both systems were powerful, but both would eventually be expanded by deeper insight. Newton imagined space as a fixed stage and time as a steady river, flowing independently of everything else. This framework worked beautifully for planets and projectiles, but it created a worldview where everything was mechanical and predictable. But when physicists began exploring the quantum world, the realm of atoms and subatomic particles, those classical descriptions broke down. Reality was no longer solid, separate, or predictable. In yoga terms, it's like seeing the body as separate from the breath, or the breath as separate from awareness. That view is helpful at first, but ultimately incomplete. Both physics and yoga evolve by dissolving those old boundaries. As scientists studied electricity and magnetism, they found phenomena that didn't fit Newton's model. Maxwell's equations revealed that light is an electromagnetic wave, not a material substance. Suddenly, the universe looked less like a machine and more like a field of interactions. The stage was shifting. Classical physics was no longer enough to describe reality. Limitations of classical physics. Quantum mechanics arrived and showed that matter isn't made of tiny solid bits. It's made of energy patterns. Mass itself is a form of energy. Newton's clean, mechanical universe began to dissolve. In yoga, this is the moment when dualism gives way to tantra, when the world is no longer divided into spirit and matter, but understood as one continuous field of consciousness. Einstein and the birth of modern physics. Einstein reshaped our understanding of reality. His theory of relativity unified space and time into a single fabric, space-time. Suddenly, the universe was dynamic, flexible, and interconnected. The shift mirrors the yogic insight that space and time are constructs of perception, fluid, relative, and inseparable from consciousness. Physics and mysticism were beginning to speak the same language. Wave-particle duality tells us that matter behaves differently depending on how we observe it. Reality is not fixed. It responds to relationship. This principle breaks the old Newtonian assumption that objects have independent, permanent properties. Yoga offers a similar insight. What we experience internally depends on how we engage with the body. Breath, sensation, and awareness shift depending on the state of the practitioner. Every particle in the standard model, electrons, photons, even the Higgs boson, show this dual behavior. It's a reminder that the universe is not made of things, but of processes. Tantra expresses this through Shiva and Shakti, two expressions of one underlying reality. Physics expresses it through waves and particles, two expressions of one underlying energy. Relativity dissolves the boundary between space and time. Measurements become relative to the observer. Eastern traditions have long taught that space and time are mental constructs, helpful but ultimately illusory. Buddhism says the past, future, and physical space are names and forms, not absolute realities. Modern physics echoes this insight. The universe is relational, not fixed. When we visualize relativity, bending space-time, shifting frames of reference, we see a universe that is flexible and interconnected. Yoga offers a similar insight. Consciousness influences how experience unfolds. Both perspectives show that reality isn't rigid or fixed. It responds to the conditions we bring to it. Observer A sees the umbrella to his left, tilted so the upper end is closer to him. Observer B sees the same umbrella to his right, with the upper end further away. When we extend this simple two-dimensional example into 3 dimensions, it becomes clear that all spatial descriptions, left, right, up, down, and every angle in between, depend entirely on the observer's position. Einstein realized something classical physicists had missed. Time behaves the same way. Temporal measurements are not absolute. They are relative to the observer, just like spatial ones. Capra's core point. Capra argues that modern physics and Eastern mysticism converge on a holistic worldview. The universe is an integrated whole, not a collection of separate parts. Ecology, spirituality, and physics all point towards interdependence. The mystic looks inward and finds unity. The physicist looks outward and finds the same unity. Brahman and Atman, the universe and the self, reflect one another. It's all one big cosmic dance. At every scale, from atoms to galaxies, the universe moves in patterns. Yoga calls this the dance of Shiva. Physics calls it the dance of energy. Both traditions remind us that we are participants in this movement, not observers standing outside of it. I observed this statue in person during a visit to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Seeing Shiva Nataraja in person reinforced for me why Capra chose the cosmic dance as the central metaphor of his book. The image is beautiful, but it is also philosophical. It reminds us that creation and destruction are not opposites. They are part of a single, ongoing process. In many ways, modern physics presents a similar picture of reality. Non-dualism and Tantra. Tantra teaches that the divine exists in every particle of the universe. There is no separation between matter and spirit. Modern physics supports this view. Everything is energy. Everything is connected. Everything participates in the same cosmic field. Spiritual awareness becomes ecological awareness, a recognition that we belong to the universe, not apart from it. While it may be inconsistent to say modern physics believes in duality, while some Eastern traditions like the Tantra have a non-dualist perspective, it is here, I believe, in this statement, that Capra aligns with the unity of the material world and the spiritual realm. Classical versus modern. Classical yoga versus Tantra. Just as classical physics remains useful but incomplete, classical yoga remains valuable but not final. Tantra expands the worldview, dissolving dualism and embracing the material world as sacred. Modern physics expands classical physics, dissolving the separation between space and time, matter and energy. Both transitions move from division to unity. After exploring Newton, Maxwell, Einstein, and the yogic traditions, the invitation is simple. Hold both perspectives together. Let science sharpen your clarity. Let yoga deepen your awareness. Let both guide you towards a worldview that is grounded, connected, and open to the mystery of existence. These ideas come from Capra's The TAO of Physics and supporting texts in physics, philosophy, and yoga. They form a bridge between disciplines, a reminder that truth can be approached from many directions, but ultimately leads to the same unified understanding. Thank you for viewing the presentation and for listening with presence. Namaste.